Today, we are finding out how far the new Audi RS E-Tron GT Performance with 925 horsepower can go on a full charger battery. But like last week's test, conditions are far from ideal with snow and slush covered roads. But still, considering the conditions, I think this rocket of an EV actually performed very well. So stay tuned till the end to see the results. Finally guys, we have the new Audi E-Tron GT on loan, the new facelifted version. And even though I've been pretty excited about having this car on loan, I'm not excited about having it on loan in early January and with the weather. Like in the previous range video with the Polestar 3 long range dual motor, conditions are less than ideal. And I know a lot of people may appreciate a test, during conditions like this where we have a lot of snow, a lot of slush, and resistance in the road. I think for most people, including myself, range like this is not the most relevant, but we're still gonna do it because I have the car on loan. Though it was really cold in our last video, like upwards towards -9 degrees, it's milder today, between -1 and 2 degrees Celsius. So we should have a little bit better temperatures, though, as I said, the road conditions with a lot of snow, less than ideal. And also, this being the top of the line RS E-Tron GT Performance, it has 925 horsepower. It is an insane performance machine that we're not going to be able to use, at this time of year at all. Like, it's dangerous driving this car with anything other than all the assistance systems on. But you guys who have been following the channel for several years know that I absolutely love the Audi E-Tron GT. I had the entry-level version 3 years ago, and I've regretted selling it basically almost every day since then. Even though I have a Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, which I really like, I think that this is just a little bit more special. And this new version with the new exterior styling package that comes with the RS version, and this with about 100,000 kroners in carbon fiber on the exterior and on the interior, it just feels very special. It also has an updated and upgraded battery pack, which now is 95 kilowatt hours usable, which should give this car more range. And after about 20 minutes on the road, our average consumption is a little bit more than 28 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So not very low, but not too bad either considering the conditions. And this car is on 21-inch wheels, so that is actually not bad. And also guys, another new thing we've started doing in my range test is instrumented testing of road noise. And I have to say, this car is as noisy as I remember it being, even more road and tire noise than in the Porsche Taycan. So at the end of the video, after we reveal the results of the range, I'm going to reveal the results of the noise tests. We are now approaching our halfway point, which is the exit up the road. And since we started this test and since the last update, conditions have actually gotten worse. It started to snow, and as you guys can see, the plow trucks are having problems keeping up with the weather. And hopefully on our way back, we're not going to be stuck behind plow trucks, because when they plow the motorway, which is for safety concerns and which is a good thing, they do it 2 trucks wide, and that means we're going to be stuck behind trucks at low speed. So hopefully that's not going to happen. So after halfway, we are now at 26.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And that consumption, guys, is actually not bad. Considering the conditions, considering we have a headwind of about 1 meter to 2 per second, or maybe even 3 when we started, and it being -3 degrees Celsius outside, snow on the road, now -4 actually, I don't think that consumption is too bad. That is actually pretty decent. And another thing, guys, this car has the active suspension, which is amazing. Even in efficiency mode, in its lowest setting, this rides even better than the old E-Tron GT that rode pretty much like an S-Class. So very, very impressive, this car indeed. So let's go slow here because it could be slippery, and enter the southbound ramp here on the motorway and head back towards where we started and find out how far this RS E-Tron GT Performance can go on a motorway under pretty harsh conditions. We're now back approaching where we started, exiting here at exit 54 back to Ionity in Dal. And as we got back here, conditions are better. And yeah, we're gonna stop the timer now at an hour and 44 minutes. And what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna connect to a charger after a few hours driving on the road with only passive heating of the battery. This car does have active preconditioning if you choose a charger in the navigation system, or if you navigate to a destination and the car chooses a charger for you. But we don't do that in this test. What we do in this test is we do only passive heating. We do active preconditioning in my long trip test. Not sure if I'm going to be able to do that with this car because of the weather conditions outside. Further south, it may be even worse than up here north. And we were lucky because on our way back, like after 10 minutes, they were plowing the roads and we didn't have any issues on our way back south. So we're gonna connect to one of these chargers here. This car has a peak charging speed of around 320 kilowatts. These chargers can output 350. So let's see what we get. We're not going to get close to that without preconditioning of the battery when it's as cold outside as it is today. Okay, before we jump out, let's take a look at the consumption, which actually isn't that bad. It's actually dropped just a little bit. We're now at 26.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So like with the previous version of the E-Tron GT, we have the charge port here on the driver's side, and now there are a lot of cars charging here, not a lot of vacant chargers, and also because it is snowy outside now, yeah, it's a little bit harder to navigate this charging station, but actually one of these isn't working. The other day it wasn't working either, so it's curious that they still haven't serviced one of these chargers. Usually all of these work, but they're also, as you guys can see over there, they're building new Circle K chargers. They had like a few over here before, so I think this charging station here, or this Circle K station now with the new chargers, when they open up these over here, we're gonna get a lot more chargers in this location. So it takes a little bit of time to initiate. We're at 25% stated charge. I don't think we're gonna get any, decent charging speed now. This car, though, it's based on the same platform as the Porsche Taycan, it doesn't have a kilowatt readout or it doesn't have a battery temperature readout like that car has. But actually, this is not bad at all. We haven't navigated here. We're still getting like 220 kilowatts at 25% stated charge, which is, 80, 90 kilowatts less than what we would have gotten if, the car was up to temperature. But I think that is actually pretty good considering we haven't been preconditioning the battery, and considering that, it's been between -1 and 3-4 degrees Celsius outside. 228 kilowatts, 229 at 27% stated charge without preconditioning. Yeah, that is actually not bad. Now let's take a look at the results, and what we normally do in every test is that we take the usable battery capacity, the net capacity, we divide it by the consumption, and then we subtract 3% for heat and discharging losses. But for this car, it's a little bit different because the usable battery capacity, according to all the sources on the internet, is 97.0 kilowatt hours. And normally that's a number we would use. But for this car, for this new generation, this new drivetrain in this battery pack, the buffer below zero is only 0.2 kilowatt hours, where in basically every other electric car, it's maybe 1 kilowatt hours or 2 or even more. And that means you can actually use all of the capacity from 100% down to 0 without there be any risk of running out of electricity. But with this car, this platform, it's a little bit different, because in the new Taycan, which I have driven on multiple occasions, which is the same drivetrain, the same battery pack, I've actually run out of electricity twice because that bottom buffer is so small. And I've gotten that number confirmed by the spokesperson of the Taycan, Mike Wienkötter, when I went to Austria for the Taycan 1111 kilometer challenge, where I ran out of electricity twice, that the Buffer below zero is only 0.2 kilowatt hours, where in the pre-facelifted version of this, it was like 1.5 or 2. So what we're going to do in this test for this car, which we did with the Taycan, is that we're going to count for a bottom buffer of 1.5 kilowatt hours, meaning the usable capacity we're using for this car in this test and for this chart is 95.7 kilowatt hours instead of 97.0. And with that number, that gives us a theoretical range under today's conditions of 346 kilometers, which I actually think, even though, you know, that consumption may not be low, it's not that much higher than the pre-facelifted Taycan under much better conditions, like 10, 15 degrees Celsius on dry roads. Yes, it may not be as low as a Tesla Model S, which we have tested under similar conditions, or maybe it was a little bit, you know, better conditions that day. But for being this car, I think that is actually pretty decent, getting almost 350 kilometers of real world range in a car like this that looks this good and is this sporty with 21-inch wheels and 925 horsepower. But let me know what you guys think. Do you still think that the consumption of this car is still too high? I don't think it's necessarily low, but considering the battery pack, considering the configuration and the performance of this car, I'm actually happy with that. But let me know what you guys think. So let's take a look at the noise test results. So we've done noise test measurements at 80 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, and 120 kilometers an hour. And what I do in this test, which I wanted to do for years, is not just buy, you know, these cheap decibel meters where you have a read off a screen, because that is so unreliable because the readings jump so much. How is it possible to get an accurate reading without having a chart? I've tried many years before, and for other YouTube channels who do that, yeah, I don't understand like how you can, with a good conscience, like rely on that type of measurement. So for these tests, I have my laptop, I have software for measuring, I have a chart, and I also have a proper microphone. And at 80 kilometers an hour, I did 2 readings where we got the first reading 67 decibels and the second reading 68 decibels. So I'm going to say 67.5. At 100 kilometers an hour, I did 4 different measurements, one at 68, one at 68.5, one at 68, and one at 69. So I think we're going to average that at 68.5. So yeah, this is not a quiet car. If you saw my last range test where we measured the Polestar 3 long range dual motor on 22-inch wheels, like even bigger wheels and tires than this, that car is a lot quieter than this. And at 120 kilometers an hour, I did 5 measurements, one at 72 decibels, one at 71.5, and the rest at 71.5. So I think we're going to average that at 71.5 decibels. So we only have 2 cars measured, this and the Polestar 3 long-range dual motor. And yeah, as my subjective, you know, opinions have said about the E-Tron GT for years, is that this is not a quiet car. But what can I say about the noise levels? Like, aside from the actual readings, tire noise is very apparent. Like, this car is very sensitive to coarse and to fine asphalt. So if you live in a country with really fine asphalt, like if, for example, you live in Germany, you're not going to have the same noise levels from the tires as from this, because I think wind noise is actually quite nicely suppressed. And also motorway joints, like the joints when it goes gadunk, is very loud in this car. You can see from the charts there's a really high peak. And also noise from other vehicles. So if you're passing another car or another car is passing you, like the tire noise from that is very, very loud. So yeah, the Taycan, in my opinion, is actually considerably more silent than this. And my Taycan on 20-inch wheels on Continental Viking Contact 7 tires is a lot quieter. So guys, let me know what you think about the results, both the noise test and the range. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.